car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Hello, I'm Art Franklin. Welcome to the attorneys. Here we examine questions and concerns that matter to you. And on this edition of the attorneys, we're discussing what to do if you are injured at work. Understanding your rights as an employee is critical. But before we get into that, as always, we'd like to let you know that attorneys at Hollis Wright are standing by right now to answer your call. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. It's a free call, it's a confidential call, and you can make that call right now. Let's get into the topic now. Of course, Josh Wright is our managing partner over at Hollis Wright. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
How was your week?
It was good.
Good. Mine too.
Back here to do it again.
Let's do it. Let's educate the public.
That's right. Allwin's here with us again. Good to see you, Allwin.
Art, good to see you. I appreciate y'all having me back.
You know, Allwin and I are contemporaries of one another. We work in the same firm together, and we've practiced law for a very long time together. I know Allwin's been practicing 26 years because I've been practicing 26 years. And I kind of look at you sometimes and I smile, I laugh because you're one of the funniest people I know. But in 26 years, the practice you have built is almost unprecedented in the workers' comp realm. I mean, where did this start, do you think? And how did you get to where you are right now from a reputation perspective in comp?
Well, Josh, I appreciate all those nice words. You know, I guess a lot of it has to do with sticking with it. You know, every time you and I have been doing business, not just since we joined the firm a few years ago, but probably for 20 years. Yeah. And you've seen our firm grow from just really me as a solo practitioner to now I think we have 4 or 5 lawyers in the workers' compensation department alone. The reputation, I guess, you gotta work hard for the clients. The growth of the lawyers that we have is indicative of the number of cases we have, because we're very busy and we have a lot of cases, and we're very fortunate to have those looks, and we're happy and fortunate to be able to help people.
How do you know when to, because your department in comp has grown significantly over the last several years, how do you know when it's time at the firm to grow your lawyers in order to accommodate the type of cases you have? And I know there may be no perfect answer to this, but I just wonder sometimes.
You have to do what is necessary to keep the client happy. With the Workers' Compensation Act, there's so many rules and nuances that the normal public, the everyday worker, doesn't understand and know. And you really have to have enough people to take care of each individual client. So the more clients you have, we're on the phone all the time, texting, calling, meeting with people. So I need more lawyers when I have more cases to handle. Yeah. And I don't know if there's a set number in there, but the goal is to keep everybody happy and keep the cases flowing and making money for people.
As you know, we talk a lot about the law firm and bedside manner and the importance of bedside manner, and Allwin is right in that category with the lawyers he has in his department that focus primarily on workers' compensation and some of the collateral cases that spin off of workers' comp, but being able to have the bedside manner to make every client realize that they aren't a number, they really matter, and that they're focused and they have a lawyer dedicated and a paralegal dedicated to working their case is not easy.
And that's a great point, not to interrupt, but you know, you have cases where some people, there are catastrophic injuries and they're clearly never going to work again. Some of them may not walk again. They may lose limbs. Those cases are just as important to us that someone that may have had a small fracture in their right arm or you know, a smashed toe. You got to give every case the same attention, because you never know. Everybody needs help, but you never know what it's going to lead into.
He does a good job.
He does, indeed. And I talked about Allwin Horn being seasoned. I guess I say the same thing about you, seasoned attorney. You guys have been around for a while, 26 years, but that's probably a good place to start, Allwin, if we could. What are the first steps that one should take in even filing a workers' compensation claim?
The first step you need to do is, you know, first of all, every employer that has more than 5 employees or 5 or more is required to have workers' compensation insurance coverage. So you can get hurt on the job, you know, and as long as you're hurt on the job doing your job duties, regardless if no one else is at fault, you're entitled to medical care and you're entitled to treatment. So the first thing you want to do is report it to your employer. You want to make sure a workers' compensation claim is opened up, because 99% of the time or 95% of the time people have workers' workers' compensation insurance. Sometimes larger companies are self-insured, but you have 5 days typically to report an injury when it happens. There are exceptions to that rule, and it can go out as far as 90 days. But report the accident, and I'd say this: I mean, get you a lawyer if you think this is a serious injury. You need to get your lawyer. You need to document it. You get in to see a doctor. Get the medical history recorded.
Do you think that, and it's a great point to get a lawyer? We say that a lot on the show, and I know you have heard this before. We say a lot, you don't have to hire us. There are other good law firms out there, but you need to get some level of legal counsel. And I do truly believe that. What is it about having a lawyer in the complicated nature of comp cases that can benefit a client? Even in a case that's a moderate injury?
The benefit of it is this, and while in my opinion, there are insurance companies that are better to work with than other insurance companies in terms of their ability, their size, to help and process a claim properly and really give a claimant what they want and what they need. Just remember this, that all insurance companies have seasoned and educated adjusters that know the law. These adjusters and these employers and companies, they have no legal obligation to explain the law to you as an injured worker. Some of them might help you along of it, but others don't. And at the end of the day, they're about saving the money for their insurance company. The less they spend, the more they keep. And that's what it's about. So you need to get a lawyer because you have someone on your side that knows the law that can answer questions for you. And I'll tell you, we take on a lot of cases when people are initially injured, and we aren't sure the extent of the injury. And typically at the end of the day, a workers' compensation claim only has value if someone has a permanent injury that's going to affect their ability to return to work or the same type of work, or has some type of physical impairment to their body. But we will take these cases and educate people and help them along. And sometimes it ends up, hey, they heal up, they're great, thankful for them and their family. But we're there to advise them. So get a lawyer and somebody that knows and can explain this to you. And
I'd mention two things, Art, that I think are important that Allwin has educated me about over the last 26 years. One of which is that the fee that someone can get from a lawyer's perspective for the client is only 15%, and it's statutory, it's mandatory, and it's locked in. So the cost of hiring a lawyer to give you the same quality of legal services as the insurance company and the corporation you work for, or company you work for, is not very expensive to start with. And number two, and I think this is critically important, you want to have someone that understands the system, that knows how to turn a comp case from a $10,000 case into a $20,000 case and a $50,000 case into a $100,000 case. And it's guys like Allwin in the department that he has, of the lawyers he has at our firm now, that know just how to do that. So it's important.
It's important indeed. It's important also for viewers to be watching the show, because this is where you get some real information. We talk about filing a claim. I'm just wondering, though, are there some mistakes or common mistakes that you can make when filing that claim, or even talking about workers' compensation?
Some common mistakes I would say, is do not be afraid to report an injury. A lot of people, they're just loyal employees. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to cause upset, because sometimes employers can be upset if a claim's filed. But if you don't do it, and then you come back later and try to put toothpaste back in the tube, it can cause you a lot of problems.
Hey, and by the way, just quickly, someone can't be discriminated against if they do file a workers' comp case.
That's correct. I mean, I'm going down tomorrow to Mobile to take some depositions in what we refer to as retaliatory discharge claim. Yeah. It is against the law to sue somebody for seeking workers' compensation benefits, and it happens all the time.
Hey, and I know we're going to break right now. When we come back, I want to talk about an actual simple concept, but one that is pretty complicated, and that is what actually is arising out of your employment, meaning what qualifies as a workers' comp case. And it sounds simple, but it's an interesting issue I think Allwin can unwrap and explain to people.
Okay, and we'll do that when we come back. But as we hit the break, I want to remind you again that you can reach an attorney at Hollis Wright right now. Standing by, take your call. We do that at the beginning of the show and throughout the show. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK, and you'll get a free confidential call. Also want to remind you to make sure you follow Hollis Wright on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. Good information, and that information is available 24 hours. We want to stay right here, because we got more information coming up as we continue with the attorneys when we come back.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best: help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas, such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law, such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys. For over 20 years, Hollis Wright has been turning setbacks into comebacks. Make no mistake, who you hire after an accident will define your comeback. Pick a trusted firm that knows how to win. Let Hollis Wright tell your comeback story.
Welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and this is a show where we give you useful information throughout the show. So you may notice that scrolling on your screen, information that can be used about this topic. This topic we're talking about is workers' compensation. If you're injured on the job, what to do. And we put a little thumbnail right there as we were going to break where you wanted to start.
Put a tack on it, right?
Yep.
Put a tack on it.
That's right.
All right, hey, so let's talk for a second. This sounds like a simple concept. When I heard it in law school, you know, your injury has to arise out of your employment. It sounded like a simple concept. And then as that kind of was explained to me, and I've seen the way that you and your team practice over the last 26 years, you know, that's not always a perfectly simple answer, is it?
It's not at all. And there are multiple, you know, you have law school exam questions, and you know, the exam questions from year to year are never the same because they're always different fact patterns. Yeah. So you have to pay attention to the facts of every case. Generally speaking, the rising out of your line, scope, and course of employment means that someone is on the clock, not necessarily on the clock either, but someone is performing a job duty in furtherance of their job requirements. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, the easy example is, hey, you've got somebody working, you know, on a scaffold 3 stories up. Safety device fails and they fall and they have an acute injury and they end up in the hospital. It's real clear they were working on the job. This happened during the line, scope, and course of employment, and it's a covered claim. You have other examples where people, you know, there's something called the coming and going rule, where people typically coming and going to and from work, and they have an accident. It may not be covered, but hey, if you're provided a company vehicle and this happens, or if you're required to park in a company parking lot or company area, I've got a lot of cases where people have been hit by co-employees by cars when they're leaving the 3rd shift at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they're hit in the parking lot, and they're required to park there. So that's not only is that not a covered workers' comp claim, it's a third-party case. Yeah. You have situations like that. You have other situations where people engage in activity. We represent a lot of people in textile mills that have injuries not only in nip points, lose limbs, hands, but also they just do repetitive work. It's called cumulative stress. So, you know, we have, for example, people that may sew. They may develop carpal tunnel, and it's called a repetitive stress injury or a cumulative stress injury. And just over years of doing the same thing over and over, it wears out your body. A lot of people that work for car manufacturers on assembly lines have to do a lot of overhead work, moving in car parts, seats, dashboards, wears out their shoulders. We represent a lot of people with claims against the major auto manufacturers in the state of Alabama. So, and there are many more examples I could give you, but typically, if you're doing your job in furtherance of your job duties, you have a claim, as long as the doctor relates.
Allwin won't tell you because he doesn't play softball for the firm, but if you are doing some recreational activities, you may be covered too if something happens.
That's right.
Something to know about.
Right.
That's why you're tuning into this show right now, because you get a lot of good information there. Here's what I wanted to know. What happens if my workers' compensation claim is denied?
Well, I mean, if it's denied, you need to go to an attorney if you honestly believe you have a legit claim. And, a lawsuit can be filed in a court of law, and we'll pursue the claim. And, in order to prove a valid workers' compensation claim, there are pretty much two standards or burdens of proof that have to be met. Number one is called the legal causation. Number one, did your injury arise out of the course of your employment? An accident in the course of your employment. And you can testify, yes, I was doing this and this happened. A lot of times you have witnesses, co-employees that can help, solidify that. And then the second prong of the test is what's called medical causation. If you have an injury that say, we have a lot of people that have pre-existing conditions. As we get old, our neck and spine and shoulders, they don't get better. They age, they degenerate. But a lot of times you do something at work that may aggravate these pre-existing conditions. And so you need medical causation, which means you need a doctor to say, hey, the job did cause or aggravate this condition or injury for which we need treatment.
Let's talk also about, let's assume someone is not denied. It is a covered claim. They're working through the process with a lawyer. What types of benefits can someone expect that they're entitled to? Because I do think there's some confusion about that with the average workers. Like, am I going to get my regular paycheck? And that's not always the case.
That's exactly right. First of all, when you're injured in the line, scope, and course of your employment, it's a covered claim. The insurance company, and this is for life unless you decide to allow somebody to buy you out, they have to provide you medical treatment. Now, some of the nuances of this is that the workers' compensation insurance company gets to select the doctors. They get to choose your physicians. There are some exceptions where you can go out and choose one, get a second opinion from a panel of 4, and then sometimes you can ask the court to appoint a neutral physician. There are things you can do to get to a different doctor for second opinion. But first of all, they're required to provide the medical treatment. Second, if you have to come out of work because of your job, your restrictions prevent you from coming back to work, or the employer cannot accommodate those restrictions, and they're not required to do so, then you're entitled to temporary benefits, temporary total disability benefits, which are 2/3 of your average weekly wage in the state of Alabama. And those can be calculated to include fringe benefits also, and it's pre-tax dollars, not post. You're also, if once you heal, after you are no longer temporarily injured, you become, your doctor places you what's called maximum medical improvement. The temporary healing process is over and you're released to work, or with restrictions, or you can't go back to work, you're entitled to either permanent partial disability benefits or permanent total disability benefits. And what those mean is in the saying itself. If you're permanently partially disabled, you're anything or unemployable, anything less than 100%. If you cannot go back to work, you're going to be 100%.
That's why you get a lawyer involved, because these are actually, to Allwin, these are common, right? But to someone, like a lot of times someone may come in thinking they have a moderate injury. Allwin's group and his team qualified as a permanent injury, and that's one of the benefits that they offer to an individual. Hey, answer this for me, because I know we get this question at the firm a lot. I work for a mom and pop organization. They only have 4 employees, or they had 10 employees, but they didn't have workers' comp insurance. There are options for those people too, are there not?
There, absolutely. Number one, first of all, if someone chooses not to have workers' compensation insurance coverage, there's a part of the Alabama Code called the Employers Liability Act. You can sue your employer for negligence if, in fact, they didn't provide you a safe workplace or they caused your injury. Also, if someone is required to have coverage and they elect not to, then you can have double recovery or double penalties applied in the case.
Double up?
Double up. If you can.
Hey, so when we come back, because I know we're getting ready to go to break, Art, I want to talk about and unwrap an important topic that Allwin's group does a great job of, which is fully and completely evaluating comp cases to determine if you have collateral cases on top of your workers' comp case to recover even more. Let's talk about that.
We'll do that, and also want to let you know you can do this as well. there is a QR code on your screen. We make it so easy for you to get in contact with Hollis Wright. Scan that QR code and you can reach the firm there as well. Always, that number is available for you to call at 1-844-LAW TALK, a free and confidential call. We'll take this break. This is our last segment. Go ahead and make that call now. When we come back, we'll wrap up.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
At Hollis Wright, we don't cut corners when helping our clients. Financial resources matter, and we know it. If it's a car accident, a work injury, or a defective product, we have the resources to help. Let Hollis Wright tell your comeback story.
And welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys. This is your final opportunity to make that call to reach someone at Hollis Wright right now. 1-844-LAW-TALK for that free and confidential call. Also, we're giving you information scrolling at the bottom of your screen. We're providing a QR code for you to scan, making it so easy for you to get in contact with the firm. But we're also making it very easy for them to get the right information they need when we're talking about, in this case, workers' compensation.
And Art, I think this issue is so very important for people to recognize that not all law firms handle workers' comp cases the same. Mm-hmm. And when we talked early in the first segment about Allwin's history of 26 years of staying the course and becoming one of the state's preeminent workers' comp lawyers and building the team of lawyers that he has, there's a benefit to that for the people that come to our law firm, one of which is that his team looks not just at your comp case, but there are potential also collateral or additional recoveries. And I want you just to talk for a minute about that and kind of how that works and how you evaluate those.
Well, Josh, that's what's been so great about our relationship over the last decade plus is that, we refer to them as third-party cases. Mm-hmm. When these cases come in, somebody's injured on the job, a lot of times, and just give you some examples, they may have been driving a company truck and they're hit by another vehicle, an 18-wheeler or just another car. Well, not only do they have their right to workers' comp benefits, they can recover against a negligent third party. We have cases where, like we say, we represent so many people in textile mills and industrial mills where safety guards are removed from rollers and nip points and light shields are removed in order to speed up the work. And what happens? Well, people working fast without these guards, they lose their hands. Mm-hmm. That's a good example. So, and then you can recover against a manufacturer or co-employee, things of that nature. But the point of venting these cases or looking at the facts so closely is because the Workers' Compensation Act was written in 1987 or codified, and unfortunately the numbers or the dollars you're using for your recovery are the same as 1987 dollars. And here we are almost 50 years later, and what a Coca-Cola cost then versus now. So you want to maximize your recovery. You do not have the limits or the caps on a third-party case. And these other industries or companies or employees, they have insurance that can maximize that recovery. You get mental anguish, pain and suffering, future lost wages, those additional damages that you don't get in a workers' compensation claim. So you want to go to a law firm that knows how to vet a case and make sure you have every avenue of recovery covered.
And has the resources to be able to litigate those cases, because they are expensive to litigate. One of the things that I think has been so good for my relationship with Allwin working together in the same firm is we collaborate a lot on types of cases. One of the things that I do is industrial accident cases where I'm working with Allwin hand in hand to evaluate potential removal of guard cases like he talked about. And he's exactly right. Not only can the person get their workers' comp benefits, they also can get regular, ordinary punitive damages, compensatory damages, damages for the loss that they sustained on top of workers' comp. And so we work together and collaborate with one another to make sure that's done.
And one thing I'll add to that is, Josh, as you know, and the common person does not, is the workers' compensation insurance company is entitled to their right to reimbursement or subrogation. And what that means is if you have a recovery from a third party and workers' compensation has paid $50,000 for your medical expenses, they get their money back if you get a recovery against a third party. So it's always good to have the same lawyer working both those cases to work that out. Sometimes you can get that waived.
Yeah. For sure.
Also, I'd like to give you good information as we were talking about various facts, and this is one that caught my attention. The leading cause of fatal workplace injuries in Alabama in a recent year was falls, slips, and trips, comprising of 81% of the deaths. And that's just in that case. But we also know that sometimes a person causes their own injury at work. Are they still entitled to workers' compensation?
That's a great question. The Alabama Workers' Compensation Act is referred to as a no-fault system, meaning it can be somebody's fault, nobody's fault, your fault. And as long as you didn't intentionally try to hurt yourself, then you're going to be entitled to benefits and recovery. You're going to be entitled to your medical benefits, your compensation benefits, and then maybe vocational retraining. As long as you did not violate a written safety rule knowing you were going to hurt yourself, you're going to be covered.
And one of the reasons to get a lawyer involved like Allwin and his team is sometimes the carrier will try and argue that the conduct was intentional. There was an intentional violation of a company policy. You're not entitled to recover for that. There was intoxication involved. Sometimes that's manufactured. You want to have someone protecting you in those cases. Hey, talk to me about this because I know this issue comes up a lot. We get a lot of questions about this. I don't like the doctors, the workers' comp advisor or my case manager is pushing me to. What options do I have? Can you just talk about that?
Unfortunately, they are limited, but you are entitled to what's referred to as a panel of four, and that's a one-time option to choose a new doctor from an insurance company or employer-provided list of 4 doctors in the same field. For example, if I've had a spine injury and a spine surgery, after the surgery I'm just still not feeling like I think I should, I want a second opinion, you request a panel of new doctors, you'll get a list of 4 new spine specialists, and you can select one. One thing I'll say that's good about having a seasoned lawyer or lawyers that have been doing this for a long time, we handle cases all over the state of Alabama. There's not a county I hadn't handled a workers' compensation case in, and we even do it outside the state. But we are familiar with the doctors, and it helps to have a lawyer that is familiar with the doctors. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not saying this is common, but there's some doctors that might be more patient friendly and listen to the patient's needs than the insurance company. And that's very important. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of clients that come to me that have been good employees or trying not to rock the boat, and here they come 2 years at the end of their statute, they've had 2 back surgeries, and they've already used their panel, and there's nothing we can do to get another opinion because they chose the wrong doctor.
This is a super important area of the law, and we do a lot of shows on it for that reason. We get a lot of calls. Art, I just tell you this, get to a lawyer one way or the other if you've been involved in one of these events, and Allwin and his team do a great job. But even if it's not coming to us, you need to get to someone, and you need to do it quickly.
Absolutely, and we've covered a lot of ground talking about workers' compensation. Allwin, always good to see you. Josh, another good job here. Thank you so much for catching another episode of The Attorneys, and we invite you to do it again next week, same place, same time. Catch another episode of The Attorneys. We'll see you then. So long.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.